Okay, so we left off on Friday talking about all these units of measurements and the conversions between them. And we used, for our standard measurements at least, that conversion factor that was dimensional analysis. And all it was a simple unity fraction. And remember, the characteristic of a unity fraction is that whatever the value in the numerator is equal to the value in the denominator. Even though they may not look alike, they are representing the same value. And any equivalency can become a unity fraction. If I know that 1 foot equals 3 hands, well, that can become a unity fraction. If I tell you that we have a horse that's 15 hands tall, we don't know what hands really are, but we can convert it into something that we know by using the unity fractions in dimensional analysis. So I put that over 1 to make it a fraction. And then in my conversion factor here, my unity fraction, I put what I'm getting rid of on bottom. If I put hands down on bottom, they're going to cancel out now. And we know that 3 hands equals 1 foot. So 1 foot goes on top. And so this was our typical unity fraction or conversion factor, because even though it doesn't look like it, 1 foot does equal 3 hands. And then we just multiplied that out. 15 times 1 foot is 15 feet. On bottom, 1 times 3 is 3, and then we had to divide it out. 15 feet divided by 3 is 5 feet. So that horse that is 15 hands tall is 5 feet tall. Also, though, not just any equivalency, so this was an equivalency that can be used as a unity fraction, but also any rate can be used as a unity fraction. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you need to travel 320 miles, and you're going at a rate of 60 miles per hour. Well, this rate, even though it's currently listed as what we call a unit rate, where the second number is a 1, but when we look at that 60 miles per hour, we have to think of it like this: 60 miles over 1 hour. And equivalent to that would be to think of it as 60 miles of travel is equivalent to 1 hour of travel time. So that is an equivalency. So I can take my 320 miles that I need to travel, put it over 1, using this as an equivalency to create my unity fraction. I can put 60 miles on bottom, 1 hour on top. The miles would cancel out. On top, I have 320 times 1 hour. That's 320 hours. On bottom, 1 times 60 is 60. And if I divide that out, I get 5 1/3 hours, or 5.33333 hours. This idea of dimensional analysis in a unity fraction is incredibly powerful, because here it allowed us to take that rate of 60 miles per hour and use it basically as a conversion factor to do our calculation. So even though we may not have known the formula required to do that calculation, we could use the units in the dimensional analysis to do it. Similar to that, I think we covered an example like this on Friday. Let's say you are traveling at 70 miles per hour. And your fuel efficiency is, let's just make it simple. We'll do 25 miles per gallon. We want to know your rate of fuel consumption. Now, rate of fuel consumption is usually in gallons per hour. So what we need to do is start with one of our rates that we have here that either have the volume or the capacity up top, because we have gallons on top of our desired unit. Well, no, we don't have that for either of these. Both of them have miles in the numerator of the units, or have time in the denominator. But we do have, this here has hours in the denominator, which is not only a unit of time, but it happens to be the one we want. We want it to be hours. So we're going to start with the 70 miles per hour. But we're going to write it as 70 miles over 1 hour. And then we're going to use the second rate here as an equivalency. 25 miles is equivalent to 1 gallon of fuel consumption. So over here, we need to get rid of the miles, so put miles on bottom. That's saying 25 miles is equivalent to 1 gallon. So now the miles cancel out. Yeah, you probably did this a lot in physics or chemistry if you had it. So 70 times 1 gallon is 70 gallons. And 1 hour times 25 is 25 hours. And for a rate, we want to divide out the number of the bottom unit here. So this is 25 down here, so we're going to divide both by 25. 70 divided by 25 is 2.8 gallons. 25 hours divided by 25 is 1 hour. So that is 2.8 gallons per hour of fuel consumption. So you can see, once again, you don't need to know anything about the formula or what needs to be calculated. You just need to follow the units. In the metric system, it was simply memorizing the chart. We had our main unit, which was for now meters for length, which was 1 unit. Deci, or dm, was 1/10 of a meter. Centi, cm, was 100th of a meter. And milli, abbreviated millimeter, was 1,000th of a meter. And we did go down to micro, which was 1,000,000th of a meter. Going up, we have deca, abbreviated DAM, decameter, which is 10 meters. Hecto, abbreviated HM, is 100 meters. And kilo, abbreviated KM, was 1,000 meters. And when we went to convert in the metric system, it was all a matter of moving decimal places. Because every position on this chart is multiplying or dividing by 10, so that's moving the decimal point 1 spot left or right, all we have to do is follow the movement on the chart to figure out how far to move the decimal point. So if I have 0.87 meters and I want to turn it into millimeters, I look at my chart. I'm going from meters to millimeters. From meters to millimeters is 1, 2, 3 spots to the right on the chart. My decimal point goes 1, 2, 3. I have to add a 0. 3 spots to the right, and I get 870 millimeters. Or I might have had 630 centimeters going to meters. Again, I have to go from centimeters to meters this time. From centimeters to meters is 1, 2 spots to the left on the chart. My decimal point, since it isn't written, it starts out at the end of the number and it moves 1, 2 spots to the left. That's 6.3 meters. Well, today's task is to go the next step. Let's start looking at operations with those measurements. So if I have 8 feet, 4 inches, plus 5 feet, 6 inches, remember when we add or subtract, we must have the same name. And for whole numbers, that was right down by the individual place values of the digits. When we're looking at measurements, the place values are the units. This is the inches place value and the feet place value. So we have to keep those units lined up. Next, just like we did with whole numbers, we start at the end of the number and we work our way backwards for addition in case we need to carry, or subtraction in case we need to borrow. So here we add 4 inches plus 6 inches gives us how much? 10 inches. Do we need to carry there? No. We wouldn't carry until we hit 12 inches or more, right? That's what we'd have to carry. So now 8 feet plus 5 feet gives us 13 feet. Good. Now, of course, it doesn't stay that simple. We can run into cases where we do have to carry. We might have 7 feet 9 inches plus 4 feet 8 inches. We start on the right and work our way back to the left. What's 9 inches plus 8 inches? 17 inches. That's more than a foot. That breaks down into 1 foot with how many inches left over? 5. If you're not sure, what you can always do is just come back here and subtract 12 inches, and you get 5 inches. Now we're going to keep the inches because this is the inches place value, and then we'll carry the 1 foot into the foot place value. Now we have 1, 7, and 4 make what? 1 plus 7 plus 4 is 12 feet. Perfect. Well, the feet and inches are the units you're probably most familiar with. We can maybe do 4 yards, 2 feet plus 3 yards, 2 feet. So if we go to add here, again, we start on the right, work our way back to the left. What's 2 feet plus 2 feet? 4 feet. Is that bigger than a yard? It is. How many feet would be left over? 1. 1 yard, 1 foot. So again, we keep our 1 foot. We carry the 1 yard. 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 3 is 8. Good. So if 8 yards, 1 foot. What if we have 7 rods and 4 yards plus 3 rods and 3 yards? So we'll go ahead and add. What's 4 yards and 3 yards? 7 yards. Does anybody remember how many yards are in a rod? You're thinking feet and a chain would be 66. 1 rod is 5.5 yards. So 7 yards is bigger than a rod. That's 1 rod with how many yards left over? Well, 7 minus 5.5 is 1.5. So 1.5, and then we carry the 1 rod. 1 and 7 makes 1 rod plus 7 rods. 8 plus 3 more is 11 rods. Good. So 11 rods, 1.5 yards. Let's do one more of those. So let's do 8 rods and 5 yards plus 6 rods and 4 yards. So again, we do right to left. 5 yards plus 4 yards is 9 yards, which is more than a rod. If I take out 5.5 yards for the rod, how many yards are left over? There you go, 3.5. Perfect. So we'll keep the 3.5 yards, carry the 1 rod. We have 1 and 8 makes 9 plus 6, 15 rods. Perfect. So 15 rods, 3.5 yards. Well, that's maybe rods and yards might not be a calculation you use a lot. Now, since you guys brought it up, let's do 4 chains and 3 rods plus 2 chains and 1 rod. Now, you look at this and you think, well, we don't know how many rods are in a chain, but you guys had it up here. You had 66 feet in 1 chain. Well, if 1 chain is 66 feet, we can convert 66 feet because we know that 1 rod is 16.5 feet. And so the feet cancel out. 66 divided by 16.5 is 4 rods. So 1 chain is 4 rods. So back to here, 3 rods plus 1 rod is 4 rods. Is that bigger than a chain? It's 1 chain and there's nothing left over. So we can put 0 rods there if we like and carry our 1 chain. 1 and 4 make 5 plus 2 is 7. There you go. 7 chains. So 7 chains is our result there. A little bit more on the practical side. We might have 4 yards, 2 feet, 9 inches, plus 3 yards, 2 feet, 10 inches. Once again, we start on the right and we work our way back to the left. So here we have 9 inches plus 10 inches, which will make perfect. 19 inches, which is 1 foot and 7 inches. So we're going to keep our 7 inches and carry the 1 foot. So now we have 1 foot, 2 foot, and 2 foot makes 1 and 2 make 5 feet. Good. 5 feet is more than a yard. It's 1 yard and how many feet left over? 2 feet. There you go. So we keep our 2 feet and we'll carry our 1 yard. 1 and 4 and 3 make 8 yards. So 8 yards, 2 feet, 7 inches. So let's take 8 yards, 1 foot, 11 inches, plus 3 yards, 1 foot, and 6 inches. And we'll start from there. Starting again right to left, 11 inches plus 6 inches makes 17 inches. Good. That, of course, is bigger than a foot, so that's 1 foot and 5 inches. So we keep our 5 inches, carry our 1 foot. We have 1 foot, 1 foot, and 1 foot make 3 feet. Is that bigger than a yard? Yeah, that is a yard, so there's 0 feet left over, and we carry our yard. How many feet? 10 yards. There we go. Perfect. 1, 6, and 3 is 10 yards. So 10 yards, 0 feet, 5 inches. When we go to subtract, we might have 8 feet, 9 inches minus 6 feet, 3 inches. So again, we start at the end and work our way backwards. So we have 9 inches minus 3 inches makes 6 inches. 8 feet minus 6 feet makes 2 feet. So we got 2 feet, 6 inches. Well, again, it doesn't stay that simple. We have 9 feet 2 inches minus 4 feet 11 inches. So now we'll go ahead and subtract, starting on the right, working backwards. But we have 2 minus 11 doesn't work. So what do we have to do? We have to take away from the 9. So that'd be 8 feet. What does the 2 inches become? 14. Good. The one that we borrowed from the feet was 12 inches. So we have to make sure we add 12 inches to the 2 inches we already have, giving us the 14 inches. 14 inches minus 11 inches? 3 inches. 8 feet minus 4 feet? 4 feet. Good. We might have 7 yards 1 foot minus 3 yards 2 feet. So again, we start at the end on the right, work our way back. 1 minus 2 can't be done, so we need to borrow from the 7. So 7 yards becomes 6 yards. 1 foot becomes 4 feet. Good. Now we have 4 feet minus 2 feet. 2 feet. And 6 yards minus 3 yards. 3 yards. So 3 yards, 2 feet. So we might have 5 rods, 2 feet, minus 1 rod, 5 rods, 2 yards, minus 1 rod and 5 yards. Again, we start on the right and we work our way back to the left. 2 yards minus 5 yards can't be done. So we're going to borrow from the 5 rods to make it 4 rods. The 2 yards will become how much? So we borrowed 1 rod is 5.5 yards, 7.5. So we add 5.5 to the 2 to get 7.5. Then we subtract 7.5 yards minus 5 yards is, what's 7 minus 5? So 2. So 2.5 yards, perfect. 4 rods minus 1 rod, 3 rods. For some reason, I tend to say yards when I see the RD as well. So next, we might have 6 yards, 1 foot, 3 inches, minus 2 yards, 2 feet, 11 inches. So we go to subtract here. 3 inches minus 11 inches can't be done, so we're going to have to borrow. The 1 foot now becomes 0 feet. The 3 inches will become 15 inches. We had to remember we've got 12 from the 1 foot we borrowed. So now 15 inches minus 11 inches makes 4 inches. Now the 0 feet minus 2 feet can't be done. So we have to go to the 6 yards. That becomes 5 yards, and this 0 feet becomes 3 feet. Perfect. So now 3 feet minus 2 feet is 1 foot. 5 yards minus 2 yards, 3 yards. Perfect. I might have 6 miles and 280 feet minus 3 miles and 4,100 feet. So when I go to subtract here, again, 280 minus 4,100 can't be done. I have to borrow from the 6 miles. This will become 5 miles. How many feet are in a mile? 5,280. So I add that to the 280 that are already there. I get 5,560 feet. Now I have to subtract the 4,100. I can do that digit by digit. 0 minus 0 is 0. 6 minus 0 is 6. 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. So we get 1,460 feet. Then 5 miles minus 3 miles is 2 miles. Good. So when we go to multiply, we lose the dual unit relationship a little bit. If I have 2 feet 3 inches times 3 feet 6 inches, I am not going to multiply it that way. I mean, I could. I would have 6 inches times 3 inches. 6 times 3 is 18. Inches times inches is inches squared. That's the unit of area. But I also, remember, when I multiply, I have to combine every digit of one number with every digit of the other number, which means I also have to multiply 6 inches times 2 feet. Well, 6 times 2 is 12. Inches times feet is an inch foot. If I go the other way, 3 feet times 3 inches, well, that's 9 inch feet. And 3 feet times 6 feet is 6 square feet. Which, okay, so I've got the 6 square feet and the 18 square inches. Those are units we know. But what about the 12 and the 9 or the 21 inch feet? Well, that actually is a unit, but it's not one that's been used in a couple hundred years. An inch foot is a unit that's 1 inch wide by 12 inches long, or a foot long. It was used for measuring out steel, actually for making armor in medieval times. Well, we haven't walked around in suits of armor for quite a while, so that's a unit that has not been used for several hundred years, and we really don't want to bring it back. So what we do when we go to multiply measurements is we express them all in a single unit. So this would either be expressed in all inches or in all feet. To do that conversion, it sometimes helps to think of these as fractions. If I were converting these all into feet, this would be 2 feet. The 3 inches would just simply become 3/12 of a foot. So now 2 and 3/12, if I want to make that into all feet, I just reduce that fraction. 3/12 reduces to what as a fraction? 3 over 12 can reduce to 1/4. Good. So that's 2 and 1/4 feet. 3 feet 6 inches, well, that's just going to be 3 and 6/12 of a foot. 6/12 reduces to 1/2. So we have 2 and 1/4 times 3 and 1/2, giving us 7 and 7/8 square feet, or 7.875 square feet. The reason I did that one first is these fractions right here actually can help us convert into all inches. If I want to convert into all inches, I have to think improper fractions. What would the numerator of this be if I turn this into an improper fraction? Well, it'd be 2 times 12 is 24, plus 3 would be 27. So that's 27/12, or just 27 inches. The same here. If I turn that into an improper fraction, I do 3 times 12 is 36, plus 6 is 42 inches. So now I multiply 27 times 42 is 1,134 square inches. Now, if I look at these two calculations, a little foreshadowing to Friday, to get from inches to feet, we usually just divide by 12, right? So if I take my 1,134, I divide by 12, I get 94.5. That is not 7 and 7/8. Why didn't that work? Well, the reason it didn't work because these are not inches and feet anymore. These are square inches and square feet. In fact, if I take this and I divide by 12 one more time, I get the 7 7/8. So one of the things we're going to look at on Friday is making these conversions with units of area like this, from square inches to square feet to square yards to square miles and to other square units that we'll use for area. For now, let's get back to our multiplication. When we're going to do multiplication with dual units, we are going to use a measurement times what we call a scalar. And all a scalar is simply a counting number. So the interpretation, let's say I have 5 feet, 7 inches, and I'm going to multiply by 4. What that is saying is I need pieces that are 5 feet, 7 inches long, and I'm going to need 4 of them. So I'm trying to find the total length of the 4 of them put together. So just as we always do, we start on the right and work our way back to the left. So 4 times 7 inches is 28 inches. Good. Now that's bigger than a foot. In fact, it's bigger than 1 foot. It's how many feet can I get out of there? 2 feet, 4 inches. Good. If you're not sure, you can just take your 2 times 12 to give you 24 inches, and you have the 4 inches left over. Well, either way, we're going to keep the 4 inches, and we're going to carry the 2 feet. So the 2 feet go over there to the 5 feet. We have to do 4 feet times 20, or 4 feet times 5 feet, give us 20 feet. Plus the 2 we carried gives us 22 feet. So that's 22 feet, 4 inches. Let's say we have 4 feet and 9 1/2 inches per piece. And let's say I'm going to need 7 of those. So 7 times 9 1/2 is going to be a little bit trickier. Did you get 66.5? 66 1/2. So that's bigger than a foot, bigger than a couple of feet. How many feet do we get out of there? Well, if you're using your calculator, we did the 9 1/2 times 7, gave us the 66 1/2 or 66.5. We just do divided by 12, gives us 5 point whatever. So that tells us we can get 5 feet out of here. To figure out how many inches that was, what's 5 times 12? 5 times 12 is 60 inches. So that 5 feet used up 60 inches. If I subtract, how many are left over? 6 1/2. So we keep our 6 1/2 or 6.5 inches. We're going to carry our 5 feet. Now we have 7 times 4 feet, which is 28 feet. Plus 5 is 33. Did you say you smelled gas?
Yeah.
Really?
Smells like exhaust.
Okay. I was going to say light a match and see, but that's probably not a good idea. No, don't. Most likely it's most likely a car got positioned outside your air intake in the building, and it's just sucking the little bit of car exhaust through. Hopefully that's all it is. If it's more than that, well, I'll miss you guys terribly and think of you often. We actually had that happen here it's been 5 or 6 years ago now. Our dumpsters used to be located right outside our air intake for the building, our fresh air intake. And so when the garbage truck came to empty the dumpster, somebody had killed a skunk and thrown it in their garbage. So the skunk was on the garbage truck. So the smell of the skunk got sucked in and spread out through the whole school. That was a wonderful couple hours. So anyway, let's do some more multiplication with some of our other units. Let's take 5 yards, 2 feet times, let's say we need 4 of those. So what's 2 feet times 4? 8 feet. That's more than a yard. How many yards can I get out of that? 2 yards with 2 feet left over. Good. So we keep our 2 feet, carry our 2 yards. 4 times 5 yards is 20. Perfect. Plus the 2 is 22 yards. Let's do 4 rods, 3.5 yards times 9. So again, we might need the calculator to help us with this one. So if you did 3.5 times 9, you get 31.5 yards. Now we want to break that up into rods and yards. Well, if I did 31.5 divided by how many yards in a rod again? 16.5 is feet. It's 5.5 yards in a rod. So we've got 5 here, which tells us that this is 5 rods. Now, if I want to know how many feet are left over, I do 5 times 5.5, which is 27.5 feet that are used up here, or yards that are used up here. 31.5 yards minus 27.5 yards is, what's 31.5 minus 27.5? 4. So there's 4 yards here. We carry the 5 rods. So now 9 times 4 is 36 plus the 5 we carried. 41 rods. Good. 41 rods, 4 yards. We might have 3 yards, 2 feet, 11 inches times 4. So we'll start out with 4 times 11 inches, which is 44 inches. How many feet can I get out of that? So 3.6. That means it's 3 feet. What's 3 times 12? 36. So we subtract. How many inches are left there? 44 minus 36 is 8 inches. We keep the 8 inches and we carry our 3 feet. So now we have 4 times 2 feet is 8 feet plus the 3 we carried. 11. So it's 11 feet. How many yards are in that? So 3 yards and 3 feet per yard. So 3 times 3 is 9 feet. How many feet are left over? 11 minus 9 is 2 feet. So we keep the 2 feet and we carry the 3 yards. So now we have 4 times 3 yards, which is 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 3 we carried, 15 yards. Good. Those will take some time to get used to. It takes a little bit of time to get familiar with some of those conversions that we haven't done a lot of. Division is the one operation that goes left to right. It goes backwards. So we might have 41 feet 8 inches divided by 4. So we're going to start out with the larger unit, the feet here. 4 goes into 41 how many times? 10. So that's 10 feet. What is 10 feet times 4? That's 40 feet. So what's left over is 1 foot. Now here's where things are a little different with our measurement. Before I can bring down the 8 inches, I have to convert the 1 foot into inches. How many inches is that? 12. Now I bring down the 8 plus the 12 gives me how many inches? 20 inches. Good. Now 20 inches divided by 4 is 5 inches. So if I have 41 feet 8 inches and I cut it into 4 equal pieces, each piece will be 10 feet 5 inches. So let's say I have 23 feet 4 inches and I want to cut it into 7 equal pieces. So 7 goes into 23 feet how many times? 3 times. Good. 3 feet times 7 is 21 feet. We subtract. How many feet are left over? 2 feet. Now again, before I can bring down my 4 inches, I have to turn the 2 feet into inches, which will be 24 inches. I bring down the 4 feet, 28 inches. Good. Now 28 divided by 7 is 4. So 23 feet 4 inches cut into 7 equal parts. Each part will be 3 feet 4 inches. Let's do 8 yards and 2 feet. Divided into 5 equal pieces. Well, 5 goes into 8 yards how many times? Once. That's 1 yard. So 1 yard times 5 is 5 yards. 8 yards minus 5 gives us 3 yards. Before I can bring down the 2 feet, the 3 yards has to become how many feet? 9 feet. Bring down the 2 feet with the 9 feet to make 11 feet. 11 divided by 5 is 2.2 feet. I won't make you do rods and yards for division. Okay, so what if we wanted to multiply 2 measurement units? Rather than doing measurement unit times a scalar, or even for division, we did measured units divided by a scalar or a counting number. If I did have to multiply or divide 2 measurements, like we said earlier, we would get them all into a single unit. So if I had 8 feet times 3 feet, what is 8 times 3? 24. But then we also have to combine the units. Feet times feet become feet squared, or square feet. And we can have units other than just feet and feet. We might have 7 square feet times 5 feet. Well, what's 7 times 5? 35. And square feet times feet is going to be feet cubed, or feet to the third. Or we could go back to the standard, 6 feet times 8. So what's 6 times 8? 48, and then we just keep the feet because there is no units here. Technically what's going on there is the units here are ones. This is 6 feet, this is 8 ones. And if anything times a 1 is itself. So feet times ones is still just feet. So then the opposite happens when we go to divide. If I have 32 feet divided by 8 feet, what is 32 divided by 8? 4. Feet divided by feet divide out. This is just 4 ones or 4 items of some sort. But if I have 40 square feet divided by 4 feet, what's 40 divided by 4? 10. And then square feet divided by feet is just the reverse of what we had here. It gives us simply feet. Or we might have 24 cubic feet divided by 6 feet. So again, 24 divided by 6 is 4. Cubic feet divided by feet. Feet squared. Perfect. So when we do multiplication and division where we do have 2 measurement units, we have to make sure that not only do we combine those counts, 6 times 8 is 48, or 24 divided by 6 is 4, but we also have to combine the names. Feet times ones is feet, or cubic feet divided by feet is square feet. So the good news is, when we look at the metric system, we don't have to deal with the dual units. In the standard system, we dealt with the dual units because there wasn't a good conversion between feet and inches. If I had 3 feet 7 inches and I wanted to just express that in feet, well, that ends up being 3.58333333 feet. That's not a good conversion. So we just left it in dual units, 3 feet 8 inches. Well, in the metric system, we would never see something listed as 3 meters and 78 centimeters. It just doesn't happen because it's not necessary. This would either be listed as 3.78 meters, or it would be listed as 378 centimeters. Because the conversions are so seamless and easy, there's no need to ever use dual units in the metric system. So when we go to do our operations with metric units, the important part is just to make sure we have the same unit. So if I have 4.2 meters plus 260 centimeters, I either need to change this into centimeters or change this into meters. Well, how do I know which? Well, we look at what we want our answer to be. If we wanted our answer to be meters, well, then the 4.2 meters is going to stay meters. The 260 centimeters is going to become how many meters? .6, right? Remember, the chart is meters, decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. So to get from centimeters to meters, we go 2 spots to the left. That's one chart. If you don't have it down, I'd recommend writing it like on the inside cover of a notebook or something somewhere so that you can refer to it rather quickly, because we will use that quite a bit in the next couple weeks. So now that they're both in meters and we want our answer in meters, we just go ahead and add. 4.2 plus 2.6 gives us 6.8. Good. 6.8, and then of course we keep the unit of meters. Or if we had 3.2 meters minus 2,700 millimeters. And I told you that I want my answer in millimeters here. Well, now the 2,700 millimeters would stay. The 3.2 meters would become how many millimeters?
$3,200.
3,200, perfect. So now I subtract 3,200 minus 2,700 is 500 millimeters, perfect. Or if I have 6.4 centimeters times 25 millimeters, and let's say I'm told that I want this in millimeters squared. Which one needs to change? The centimeters needs to change. Good. So 6.4 centimeters becomes how many millimeters? 64 is correct, yes. Because from centimeters to millimeters, they're right next to each other. So then 64 times 25 gives us what? 1,600. Millimeters times millimeters, of course, is millimeters squared. Or we might have 2.4 square meters divided by 60 centimeters. And let's say I want my answer to be in, let's go in meters. So I have to convert the centimeters into meters. So the 2.4 meters squared doesn't change. 60 centimeters becomes how many meters? From centimeters to meters is 2 spots to the left. So that decimal point has to go 2 spots to the left. So it is 0.6. So now 2.4 divided by 0.6 is 40. Meters squared divided by meters is just meters. An application of this would be finding the perimeter of a rectangle. Perimeter is just adding up the sides. So if this rectangle has sides that are 4 feet 9 inches by 2 feet 11 inches, and I want to find the perimeter. Well, the formula for perimeter, I could just add up the sides, or it could be 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So let's do it that way, doing 2 times each. So let's do the 4 feet 9 inches times 2. What does that give us? Well, 2 times 9 inches is how many inches? 18 inches, right? 2 times 9 is 18. How many feet is that? That's perfect. So we'll keep the 6 inches, carry the 1 foot. What's 2 times 4 feet? 8 feet. Plus the 1 we carried is 9 feet. So that's 9 feet, 6 inches. Let's multiply the width by 2. 11 inches times 2 is 22 inches. That's more than a foot. How many inches would be left over? 10 inches. So we'll keep the 10 inches, carry the 1 foot. 2 times 2 feet is?
4 feet plus 1 foot.
Perfect. 4 feet plus the 1 is 5 feet. Now we have to add those two. So 9 feet 10 inches plus 5 feet 10 inch, or sorry, 9 feet 6 inches plus 5 feet 10 inches. So 6 inches plus 10 inches makes 16 inches, which of course is more than a foot. It's 1 foot with how many inches left over? 4 inches. So we'll keep the 4 inches. Carry the 1 foot. 1 foot, 9 foot, and 5 foot make 15 feet. So the perimeter of that is 15 feet 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some homework to work on here. In the little book, it is Unit 20. In the big book, it's exercise 9-4. I believe that's on page 266. But it is exercise 9-4.